that is gun violence. So we're honored to have behind us law enforcement representatives from across the Triangle region and almost across the state. So we can't logically or logistically have each one of them speak. So I will address the order of speaking that we will have today. Following me would be Durham Police Chief C.J. Davis, followed by Durham County Sheriff Clarence Burkhead, followed by Fayetteville Police Chief Gina Hawkins, Apex Police Chief John Letney. Then we'll have Senator Floyd B. McKissick Jr., Senator Mike Woodard, and we'll have Jessica Hulick from Moms Demand Actions, the North Carolina chapter. After that, we'll have a brief question and answer session. I'm going to ask our media partners to please say on the topic of gun violence. We can't address specific cases today in the time that we have, but we definitely can address the epidemic of gun violence. We'll end that with a photo op, and then if there's opportunity, we'll have individual interviews with the media, with the law enforcement officers. All right, Chief Davis.
Thank you, Will. Good morning, everyone. Today, on the 5th anniversary of National Gun Violence Awareness Day, we as law enforcement leaders, my colleagues, and I will say my friends, stand together in solidarity in our efforts to end gun violence, save lives, and promote gun safety. Before we proceed, I'd like for us to pause for just a moment to have a few minutes of silence to remember those who were victims of gun violence this past year, and even most recently in the last couple of weeks. Thank you. I'm honored to be joined today by law enforcement leaders from across the Triangle region. Today we have with us Durham County Sheriff Clarence Burkhead, Fayetteville Police Chief Gina Hawkins, Morrisville Police Chief Patrice Andrews, Apex Police Chief John Letney, who is also the fourth Vice President of the International Association of Chiefs of Police, North Carolina Central University Police Chief Fred Hammett, Duke University Police Chief John Daly, North Carolina State Patrol Major Darrell Conley, Chapel Hill Police Captain Danny Lloyd, Raleigh Police Deputy Chief Rob Council, Wake County Sheriff Philip Sutton. Also joining us today are State Senator Floyd McKissick Jr., State Senator Mike Woodard, Moms Demand Action, North Carolina chapter leader Jessica Hulick, and others who have joined us in solidarity as we discuss reduction of gun violence. Recently, the tragic shootings in Virginia Beach once again highlighted the paralyzing impact of gun violence. 12 innocent people were fatally shot and others were wounded while just doing their jobs. The pain this caused their families, friends, and coworkers is immeasurable. We have also seen the pain and loss caused by gun violence in our own communities. And today, the leaders of the Triangle are taking a strong, united stand on this issue, not just today, but every day. Locally, the Durham Police Department is concerned about our recent uptick in gun violence, the safety and well-being of our residents, and we have a strong, unwavering commitment to our goal of reducing crime. We're using a combination of enforcement activities and community outreach to curtail violent crime. We work closely with state, local, and federal partners to investigate gun crimes. Our gang and intelligence units gather and share information about violent crime trends and suspects. We also redistribute our officers to areas where these crimes are occurring. It should also be noted that we work closely with each one of these leaders across the Triangle in suppressing gun violence by sharing intelligence and meeting with each other on a regular basis. We have several crime reduction initiatives planned for this summer as well, working with our youth to make sure that our youth stay out of trouble and out of danger. We will continue to partner with our community to address the causes of this crime. Sheriff Clarence Burkhead will now speak to the work of the Durham County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you, Chief Davis. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's truly an honor and a privilege to stand here before you today, just reaffirming our commitment to make our communities as safe as possible. It's an honor to represent the men and women of the Durham County Sheriff's Office, and I am humbled and certainly honored to stand with my colleagues from across the Triangle and beyond as we all take up this observance of National Gun Violence Day and again reaffirm our commitment to make our communities safe. We all know that gun safety is a very important and very serious issue, and we have policies and procedures in place to combat gun violence. And as Chief Davis has mentioned, we work hand in hand combating gun violence every day. Our individual units work together, sharing intelligence, tracking ballistics, tracking individuals who commit these crimes on our streets, and we will not stop until we curb gun violence, hopefully eliminate it, and do all we can do to make our communities safe. Far too often we hear about incidents like Virginia Beach, Parkland, Florida, and when do we say enough is enough? Well, today we reaffirm that commitment that enough is enough. As your sheriff, I support sensible gun legislation, restricting the access of guns to our youth, increasing background checks, making sure that those individuals who suffer from a mental illness cannot get their hands on weapons. I advocate for increasing quality background checks, again, to ensure that weapons are not easily accessed by individuals who don't need to have them, particularly our youth. As I was campaigning to be sheriff, I had several conversations across the community, and the number one issue was safe communities. I had a fourth grader tell me that it's no problem for him to get his hands on a weapon. Sometimes easier than getting a meal. And to me, that's unacceptable. So we stand here today, again, pledging our commitment to stop the gun violence and do all that we can do as your law enforcement professionals to partner with each and every one of you to achieve this goal. In closing, it takes all of us. It takes all of us to achieve this goal. You've heard the old saying, see something, say something. When you learn of guns in your community, let us know. When you know that weapons are in your home and they should not be, and they're not secured, let us know. We appreciate you all being here today. Thank you.
So good morning, and first and foremost, I want to say thank you, Chief Davis, for leading the way and making the roll call for not just all the law enforcement leaders, but the partners that we have in the community, because we're going to do what we do as law enforcement leaders. We're going to do our job, enforce the law, start on the suppression, address the issues to target the high violent criminals. But we also do other things constantly. For example, in Fayetteville, we have Operation Ceasefire. Operation Ceasefire has been existing in Fayetteville since 2003. In this program, it's a three-pronged program. Besides suppression, intervention, we focus on prevention. Prevention means things like when we're having tonight, which is ceasefire movie night, where we get in the community and give other options to do things on Friday night to gain awareness. We give out gun locks for gun violent prevention. We also do other things like EKG is a program called Educating Kids on Guns. We partner with our Cumberland County and we're in the schools right now. We have had over 1,700 classes, which equates to 2,500 kids being taught on, educated on guns. We go throughout the state, so thank you, Chief Davis, for leading the way of showing how we need each other. We need each other to partner as a community, to take a stand, understanding gun violence takes all of us taking one action at a time, doing something other than what we're hired to do, which is professional, but getting engaged as a community to stop the violence. So thank you, Chief.
Good morning. I too am honored to stand here with my colleagues under the leadership of Chief Davis and be able to discuss this very important topic. But I come to you today in my role as Vice President of the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and I appreciate the opportunity to brief you today. The IACP has had long-held positions intended to reduce and prevent firearms violence as we seek to improve the safety of our communities. The reduction of firearms-related violence has been and continues to be a major goal of the IACP. Gun violence is not a new issue. It's a continuing tragedy that destroys innocent lives, families, and communities. Ranging from random shootings and suicides to retaliatory assaults and targeted mass killings, violence committed with firearms universally challenges law enforcement and taxes resources. A comprehensive approach is needed in order to prevent further gun violence. The level of firearms-related injuries and deaths in the United States is unacceptable and demands immediate action. Gun violence claims lives every day throughout the United States. Acknowledging that any death by a firearm is tragic regardless of the cause, the call to action remains the same: to safeguard the public and those who put their lives on the line every day to ensure the safety and well-being of our communities. IACP has issued a firearms position paper with common sense policies to assist in reducing gun violence while upholding the Second Amendment. IACP positions include opposing any federal legislation that would either preempt and/or mandate the liberalization of individual states' concealed carry weapons laws. The responsibility of carrying a concealed weapon should include a minimum of training with the weapon carried, basic instruction on the fundamentals of carrying a concealed weapon, and understanding of when the use of a concealed weapon is legal and/or advisable. First passed in 1994, the legislation regarding criminal use of semi-automatic assault weapons was remarkably effective in reducing the number of crimes involving these weapons. In the 10-year period of the ban, the proportion of assault weapons traced to crimes fell by a dramatic 66%. Semi-automatic assault weapons are routinely the weapon of choice for criminals and pose a grave risk to our officers and the communities they are sworn to protect. 1 in 4 law enforcement officers slain in the line of duty in 2016 were killed by an assault weapon, according to research by the Violence Policy Center. The IACP urges Congress to increase resources to better allow federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies to prosecute individuals for various firearms crimes, including Brady Act violations. In addition, the IACP supports collaborative firearms enforcement programs such as Project Safe Neighborhoods and Project Exile, which have shown significant reductions in firearms-related crime. Studies have shown that firearms offenders have a higher recidivist rate than the rate for sex offenders. Therefore, the IACP supports creating a federal registry similar to the sex offender registry for offenders who have previously been convicted of a felony firearm violation or a misdemeanor that involve violent or threatening acts with firearms. Other initiatives include supporting a firearm purchase waiting period, legislation establishing criteria for extreme risk protection orders, and closing the gun show loophole while restricting online sales of handguns. According to Everytown for Gun Safety, as many as 1 in 10 people seeking guns in unlicensed sales online have prohibiting criminal records. In the 19 states and Washington, D.C. that go beyond federal law and require background checks for all handgun sales, 47% fewer women were shot to death by intimate partners. 53% fewer law enforcement officers were shot and killed in the line of duty. There are 47% fewer firearm suicides and 48% less gun trafficking in cities. One state's 2007 reversal of its law requiring a permit to purchase for all handgun sales was met with an alarming 25% increase in gun homicide rate, according to the ATF. IACP supports prohibiting the use of attachments or accessories designed to increase or modify semi-automatic firearms to automatic weapons, opposes any effort to remove suppressors from the National Firearms Act, and opposes any legislation that would reduce the ability of our nation's law enforcement agencies to combat the illegal sale of guns. In an analysis of some 350 mass killers going back a century, about 22% were found to likely have psychosis. The IACP supports crisis diversion, CIT and mental health first aid training, and through our One Mind campaign are encouraging law enforcement agencies to commit to training officers in these important skills. Every 2 years, the IACP sets its legislative agenda on the issues of importance to the policing profession. The priorities are designed to bring awareness to challenges faced by law enforcement and ways in which elected officials can bring forth solutions through legislative action. The policy priorities document, as well as the complete IACP firearms position paper, can be found on the association website at www.theiacp.org. Thank you.
I'm State Senator Floyd McKissick, represent Senate District 20, which is here in Durham County. I'd first like to thank Chief Davis and, of course, Sheriff Burkhead and all the other law enforcement agencies which are represented here today on National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I mean, we really need to sit here and contemplate what we need to do in America. If we only have to look at the TV every couple of days and see another incident somewhere across our land, which is outrageous, that's unnecessary. If it was a disease, we call it an epidemic. And it's costing lives the same way an epidemic could cost lives. And that's what we should be deeply concerned about. Each and every year, it's not just about those who lose their lives in these atrocities, but it's also about the people who are injured, which are wounded. Now, 33 years ago, I was personally impacted when I was in a convenience store, a place that I owned at the time, when people came in and robbed it. And of course, I was shot. First 2 hospitals I got to recommended the amputation of my left arm. Of course, I was able to overcome that injury, even though I suffer from limitations today. But there are over 33,000 people a year that suffer from disabling injuries. It's more than just the casualties. We need to be mindful about that because it causes people not to be able to continue in their lives or their professions, to be able to take care of the necessities of lives on their own. And the healthcare cost is absolutely enormous. What do we need to do? It's obvious. Sensible firearm protection laws. Things that will limit access to firearms to those people that really don't need them. I know Representative Maury and myself have introduced gun violence protective order legislation. What would that do? It's logical, it's reasonable. First state to do it was Connecticut, but it simply says that if you live in a household and you're there and you know that somebody has access to firearms and they're threatening to use those firearms to hurt themselves or to hurt others, then you can go into court and you can get those firearms removed for 10 days until there's a hearing to see if there's justification to remove them for perhaps a year. And of course, if you're a law enforcement officer and you learn of it as well, a protective order could be entered. It's logical, it's reasonable, it's the right thing to do. They found that it's not only about stopping people from committing atrocities, it's about stopping people from hurting themselves as a result of suicide. Last year, or this past year, I should say, also introduced legislation here in North Carolina, which could give our give our communities across our state the right to adopt policies affecting their individual law enforcement agencies. And what would it give them the power to do? A very simple thing. When they confiscate weapons when crimes are committed, when they come upon them that might have been lost or stolen, they can't reunite them with their owners. It would allow them to go out there and dispose of those firearms without having to go out and resell them to people, as we do today. Here in Durham, there are over 800 of those guns that were impacted last year. Why should we have to resell them and put them back on the street? It's about sensible, logical, thoughtful things that we can do. We shouldn't have to wait to Sandy Hook. We shouldn't have to wait until there's Parkland. We shouldn't have to wait to another incident like Virginia Beach, because unfortunately, it seems to be only when something catastrophic occurs that public action occurs. We need to be proactive, not simply reactive. We need to come together regardless of whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, because this is about human lives. It doesn't discriminate based upon party affiliation. It doesn't discriminate based upon your race. It doesn't discriminate based upon your religion. It's what brings us all together as part of humanity to protect those, and particularly the most innocent lives in our community. Those children that can accidentally come upon a weapon in a home and fire it and discharge it and hurt themselves or others. I know in Durham, as a member of City Council, we introduced trigger locks to get them out into the public. Simple things, but things that are imperative, things that are necessary, and things that we can collectively come together to do, and do it proactively for the good of our communities. Not just to protect our own lives, but to protect the lives of innocent children, like that child right over there. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm State Senator Mike Woodard, representing District 22, Durham, Granville, and Person counties. And I'm very pleased to be here today with our law enforcement leaders and other law enforcement agencies who are here, with Senator McKissick and our colleague from the State House, Representative Marcia Morey's here. I hope she might have a minute to speak before Jessica. If we could do that, that'd be great, Will. I see so many community leaders here with us in the audience today, as well as the faith community represented by my bishop, Bishop Ann Hodges-Koppel. It's good to see you, Bishop. I'd like to take a moment to expand the dialogue about gun violence this morning. It is time for policymakers and the public to acknowledge that gun violence is a public health issue, not just because of the death and injury inflicted by gun violence, but also because of the harm, fear, and trauma communities experience. Gun violence leads to a broad range of mental and physical problems that disproportionately impact our children, our youth, low-wealth communities, and communities of color. It's time for a comprehensive, pragmatic, and evidence-based public health approach to addressing this crisis. You've heard the numbers: 38,000 deaths from gun violence each year, and 60% of those are from suicide and accidental shootings. A public health approach would address upstream issues that lead to gun violence. The connections between gun violence and behavioral changes and anxiety have been well documented. These are often manifested in domestic violence in our homes, bullying in our schools, and a range of workplace issues. However, as a state and as a nation, we have disinvested in whole person mental health care in recent years. The ratio of counselors and social workers to students in our schools has declined. It is past time to reverse that trend and make significant new investments in our community resources. Additionally, we must work on the federal level to invest in the CDC's research on gun violence. Just last month, the U.S. House passed legislation to invest $50 million in this critical research. Today, I urge Senator Burr and Senator Tillis to join with their colleagues to pass this legislation as soon as possible. Public health research conducted in our universities and think tanks has shown that universal background checks, banning gun ownership by domestic violence offenders, and extreme risk protection orders are effective tools in controlling gun violence. And further research, including that done by Phil Cook at Duke's Sanford School, has shown that we must invest resources in our law enforcement agencies. Successful police investigations into gun violence are preventive in their effect. They prevent subsequent gun violence through incapitation and deterrence. We must continue to make these important investments. So I would urge you, if you leave with one message today, it is this: gun violence is a public health crisis.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry I'm late. There are events all over the state, and I just left another one over in Orange County, but this is the #1 issue for many of us, and like my colleagues, we have introduced a lot of legislation. This session, I've introduced primary sponsor on 5 bills, all for gun safety. Not one has come out of committee, and that's outrageous. Because of what you have heard, 1 million people are impacted, a family, of friends, of people who are killed by gun violence. There's a huge swell of public support, a huge swell of law enforcement action. It's time we do something. So no more mass shootings. And having been a judge sitting in a courtroom, listening to tragic stories and people saying this could have been prevented. So we have to act. Inaction is not tolerable anymore. So it'll be step by step, but please know we are working on behalf of what the public is demanding, and we are going to make a change. Thank you, everyone.
Hi. My name is Jessica Hulick. I am the North Carolina chapter leader for Moms Demand Action, and I live here in Durham. Moms Demand Action is a nonpartisan grassroots organization working on gun violence prevention. Today, as Marsha mentioned, there are events all over the state. There are 900 events across the country for Gun Violence Awareness Day. There are 13 proclamations having been made in North Carolina alone, including Durham and Chapel Hill, Carrboro, and Raleigh. So thank you to all of those mayors for making those proclamations. Today is a day that we join together for a common cause. Wear Orange is an opportunity to bring awareness to the epidemic of gun violence, but also to demonstrate our collective power as members of the community coming together to fight it together. The effects of gun violence on our communities are devastating, pervasive, and long-lasting. 100 people every day lose their lives to gun violence. 52 women every month are killed by their intimate partners. There are so many statistics that are terrifying and tragic. As you go on the next few days, wearing orange and telling your friends and talking about gun violence prevention, tell them to remember these numbers and the magnitude of people that are impacted. These numbers are sobering, but our movement gains momentum every year. Several years ago, this was not a conversation that we were all having. Moms Demand Action has grown to 6 million supporters across the country. We have groups in every city across the country. We have 20 groups in North Carolina. We are the volunteers on the ground working in our communities to make change every day, and we will continue to do so until that change is made. We will not give up, no matter how exhausted we are by seeing this take place over and over again. We believe that we can stop it. There are more people that are on our side than are against us. We want common sense gun laws to make us all safer, and we think that is possible, and we will make that happen. So thank you all for supporting us. Thank you all for working on this issue, and make sure you wear your orange all weekend and look for an event if you haven't found one this weekend. We will be honoring survivors at all of these events over the weekend, and so please make sure that you find one of those. Thank you.
Thank you. We will allow this time a few questions. I want to mention before then that we do have orange bands in the back for our guests and also our reporters in the house, as well as officers will be wearing orange in Durham throughout the month of June, and our building itself will be illuminated in orange the entire weekend. At this time, we will allow general questions.
Our police department for just 17 to vote and say no. We're going to have a change of the House. We put in a new sheriff in town. We're going to have to put some new city council members in town. I want everyone to know in this room, there's an election this year for the city council. Those 3 at-large seats are open. Filing starts July 5th. Got your back. We're going to try to help you in this community get our 17 police officers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I neglected to thank our community leaders for being in the room too. And I can speak for all of the chiefs here. We all face challenges as it relates to our various jurisdictions in suppressing gun violence. We work with what we have. And because we're committed, we continue to work with what we have. We stretch ourselves, and we are certainly unwavering and committed to suppressing gun violence in our communities. So I don't want to move too far off, but you are on point with your concerns as it relates to being able to address gun violence. And I will say that it doesn't matter how many officers we have, we will continue to reallocate resources and put them where we need them in order to address our hotspot areas and at least be available to the citizens who pay for us to do what we do every day. So thank you for that question and that comment. I would also like to thank Representative Moray for coming. I know how busy you are as well. And I didn't mention, I announced that we have university chiefs here, but I wanted the university chiefs here as well because our universities experience incidents of gun violence. And what happens on the university campus bleeds off into the community and vice versa. There are no lines of demarcation as it relates to criminal activity and gun violence. So it's important for all of us to be working together to try to suppress this. issue. Any more questions? And I'm not the only one that can answer questions. If anybody has any other questions that they would like to ask.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Chief, and hello. everyone. Sorry to talk Durham politics first, but don't worry, we'll get to it. Chief, I just want to expand a little bit, please, if you can be more specific on how now you will fight gun violence, not getting the 18 additional officers. What specifically are you going to do over the next few weeks and months? And then I'll have a question for the Apex Chief about some of the different things he spoke about as well.
Well, working with what we have is not unusual for us. And as our city continues to change, as we continue to have more demands, we have to look internally in our departments, not just in my department, but some units get suspended. Some cities get suspended so that we can prioritize our work and make sure that we have the resources that we need in order to address various type of impending problems. The request for additional resources, that was this year. We will be making those same requests. We will continue to make assessments in our police department and make the requests that are necessary in order to address the problems that we see.
Are there going to be any specific things you're doing this year, whether it's recovering illegal guns? I don't know what you could talk. Yeah.
We're actually working with our federal partners. It was mentioned earlier, but we're working with our federal partners as well, because any violent crime that is that involves gun activity, we prefer pushing those cases to our federal partners so that we can have the most robust adjudication of that case as possible. What we're trying to do is identify individuals that are repeat offenders of violent criminal activity from coming back into our communities and wreaking havoc in our communities. So when people show you who they are, and we are a very sensitive community here in Durham, and I'm sure that there are other programs, misdemeanor diversion programs, to try to help people have a different life, but we are going aggressively and hard at individuals that would commit violent acts and end lives or casualties in our community. It is concerning to us. That's why we're here today. And we are committed. And that's why you see this unified voice. We are committed. When we see it on TV, we're just as concerned as any other citizen about gun violence. And we feel that our voice is strong enough that we can work together to come to some conclusions with our partners. Jessica has been working with us for years now, along with her group, other state and local partners, our community members. We will continue to work hard.
For the Apex Chief, I
Yes.
want to just confirm something that you had said that your organization is working on. What was interesting to me was that you were specific in some policy issues. One, you wanted a longer waiting period to purchase a gun. Two, the closing the gun show loophole, a federal gun crime registry, and to prohibit things like bump stocks. Just to ensure accuracy, does everyone standing behind you endorse those policy positions? Okay, and can you speak for the departments as well? Is that? Yeah, okay, just make it sure. I know it surprises you, but as a reporter, I want to make sure I get it accurate. So,
You might want to ask everybody individually at another time.
right. So, and what does it mean? How are you going to be, for lack of a better term, lobbying for these? Is this something you're doing on a local level or on a federal level?
ICP mainly operates at the federal level and the international level. So violence is not a problem unique to the United States. Through our 130 or 164 country reach and our 31,000 members across the globe, we try to influence public safety in a variety of ways. Legislation is some of that, and of course it's different in every different nation. But we have members clearly on the ground in 164 nations that have that kind of influence. Here in the United States, the policy priorities document I mentioned is aimed towards the Congress. And it is delivered to the Congress. As I said, it's available on our website. And there are many other policy priorities in there. The first, in the first few pages of the document, is to create a National Criminal Justice Commission. There has not been one since the 1960s. Criminal justice has changed. Our communities have changed. And we believe strongly that we need to look at public safety from a holistic approach, and that means looking at the criminal justice system as a whole, not just law enforcement. So the details of that and the details of all our other positions are in that document. So through IACP staff and through our members, we are working locally with our senators, our representatives, even our mayors, and our leaders in our areas to influence legislation at the local level where possible, but primarily IACP is focused at the national level. And in doing so, we've had a voice at the table. For example, the First Step Act that most of you are aware of, that was passed by Congress and signed by the President in late 2018, was highly influenced by IACP. It's a great act. In its original form, we had concerns about recidivism. We had concerns about certain types of criminals who would be released without having proper support systems in place. So we were able to work with the administration and with Congress to establish some common sense balance to that. And we continue to do that through all the other legislative priorities that come to our attention.
I don't really got a lot of questions. I just got a lot of concerns. And first, I want to say thank you, Chief, and you are deserving to have whatever you ask. And the new sheriff in town is an honor. You know, Mike, I don't want to say Mike, Senator Woodard, I'm sorry. Senator Woodard and Senator McKenzie, you guys, and Representative Maury, you guys show up. You know, you show up. You show up. So what I want to say to the citizens is why are you not here? This is about gun violence. This is about violence in our community that they alone can't fight this fight. We need to protect them. Stop, I was at the school, we was talking about the fourth grader. I was at the school the other day, we was talking about the all-pro dads, whatever, but the little kids say, man down, man down. No, that's the police that's here to protect and to serve. We got to change their concept or their mindset of what they're thinking, right? It's not just having a press conference here and you guys look good. You look good. And thank you for coming out. It's important. It says a lot. It says that we're uniting, we're standing together. So again, personally, I like to thank the chief, the sheriff, both of my senators that I know. I don't know the rest of you guys. I'm welcome to meet you. We're doing the young lady was talking about the gun violence going on, the different events. Tomorrow there's a Stop the Violence, Take Back Our Streets. Taking back our streets. June the 8th, 11 o'clock, Love and Respect, Angie Avenue. Let the community see you in a different light. Now, the sheriff and the chief, they're always there. Senator Woodard, they're always there. I feel good that I know him on a personal level, that he understands that I'm not just somebody in the community, that I'm a person, and he don't treat me like a file in the book, And that's what's important, that you guys communicate, collaborate, and we partner up with other agencies, and we come together and band as one, because the criminals aren't abiding by the law, or else we won't need y'all. So we in the community, I'm in the community, and I'm telling you, if you breaking the law and I see you, I'm going to tell it. Call me a snitch, whatever you want to call me, I'm going to protect my son, my daughter, my future.
Thank you.
Thank y'all
We
for what you're
appreciate
doing.
Thank you.
And again, I want to invite everybody out to the street march tomorrow, 11 o'clock, Love and Respect, Angie Avenue. Please, if you're talking about this gun violence and you're really concerned about this gun violence, if you're really concerned, come out where it make a difference. Don't just come to the press conference. Get outside and walk these streets. Let's do something about it. We're taking our streets back, one neighborhood at a time. And Representative Maury, if I didn't say your name, I do thank you.
Thank
For
you.
not giving me a license.
And being a good steward. I'm going to give you one more minute, Ms. Peterson, but I want to be a steward of time. Yes.
It takes too long for the police to come in from from 147, not trying to embarrass anybody, from 147. It takes them too long to come in all the way. 15, 20 minutes. And if it's a high time, a high traffic time. So what can we do to try to move to bring that station back into? And sheriff, the other problem is also if I call the sheriff department, I'm getting, and you may not know this, but we're getting, well, Mrs. Peterson, we don't, you need to call the police department. Wait a minute. We pay county taxes also. So, Sheriff, I think if you could look into that, that did not happen under your watch. That didn't happen. That we need, if we can't always get the police, the police officers, can't we at least sometimes get some of the deputy? I like to see my deputies every once in a while come in my community also, besides just passing out, what is it? Warrants or whatever they are. But anyway,
But that's why we're here, and we are communicating together so we can try to resolve some of the. I will be in touch with you to help that issue that you brought forward to me. I do want to reach back out to my news media who have been patiently waiting, and if you have questions.
I'm gonna get a couple of more.
A question for both in your capacity as Apex Police Chief and with your affiliation with IACP. Can you talk a little bit more about efforts to deal with, you talked a little bit about some of the proposals for gun legislation. Can you talk a little bit more about addressing the issue of guns that are out on the black market or that are stolen that are not going through legal channels?
So that gets to enforcing the laws that already exist, and there are several. And as I mentioned, we work closely with our federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies through some of the projects that the federal government supports and through our collaborative relationships, not only right here in the Triangle, but across the U.S. To address the problem of illegal guns. We have to deal with crime as it occurs, with the causes of that and the weapons and how they get into the hands of the criminal. At the same time, we have to put a stopgap into making sure that more guns don't fall into the hands of criminals. One of the significant problems we see in our communities is that law-abiding citizens who legally carry firearms do not keep them safe. They don't secure them. They may leave them in a vehicle. Leave their vehicle unlocked, or may leave them someplace where they fall into the wrong hands. That could be a child, and a tragedy could occur, or it could be the person who's checking door handles in the neighborhood in the middle of the night, finds an open door, and under the seat is a firearm. That firearm is now in the hands of a criminal, and who knows what it's going to be used for or where it's going to end up. So it is incumbent upon all of us that have firearms legally, appropriately, in compliance with regulations, that we do everything we can to keep those weapons safe and keep them from falling into the wrong hands. Locking them up and making sure we don't leave them in a vehicle is a pretty simple step that would prevent, in many ways, stolen guns and prevent some gun violence.
All right, I want to get one last question. We'll have to wrap it up.
Question for the law enforcement personnel in the room has to do with an issue that a lot of the general public is not even aware of, that the National Tracing Center is not allowed to use computerized databases, and it can often take more than a week to find the serial number of a gun because they actually have to go into a warehouse full of paper to find that. And that's because of some NRA lobbying from many, many years ago that they're not allowed to computerize. And if people want to know more about that, there's an excellent segment from The Daily Show many years ago by Jordan Klepper that you can find about that. There's also a good episode of Reveal podcast, Where Criminals Get Their Gun, which speaks exactly to what the chief was just mentioning. But how much of a difference would it make in terms of law enforcement and judicial processes if we could have a computerized, quickly searchable database of these weapons?
Well, just like any other database, if it's junk in, it's junk out. And what we struggle with in law enforcement is having everyone working in the same systems. So it's important that if we establish a database where we are using it to vet weapons that might be involved in crimes or stolen or whatever, it's important that it's a universal process. So as it was mentioned, we are working collaboratively at the IACP level and at several other levels of associations, working with our legislators to help establish ways that we can track guns, laws that help regulate the sale of weapons in pawn shops. Last year, the Durham Police Department took over 800 illegal guns off the street. Those were just the guns that we were able to find. Imagine how many more weapons are out there on our streets in the hands of young people. And every life that we have to respond to that is a lifeless body is a concern for us. We should be just as outraged at the numbers of individuals that are slain at the hands of individuals with guns as we are about some of the other issues that don't rise to that level. So thank you for that comment, and we will continue to research and continue to try to utilize technology in order for us to be able to track weapons and illegal sales of guns and so on. Thank you. So I want to say again, thank you for our media partners for coming out. I can't thank my colleagues and state legislators for saying yes today to come out and show that this is not the only time that we come together, that we talk about these same concerns on a regular basis. And it's only through our unified work and through the work and partnerships that we have with our communities that we can resolve some of these issues. So thank you all for coming out, and we would be happy to respond to any additional questions that you may have about any other particular agency or jurisdiction. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.